Hey everyone, you are listening to the NintendoFuse Podcast. Today is March 30th, 2015, and this is episode number 113, entitled Nintendo Going Mobile? Well, we'll explain that in a little while, but my name is Hassan, and I'm here with Steve.
Hello, I'm here with Gold Mario.
Nice. We have Barry here.
Hey guys, and see, if I knew you were going to do that, I would have grabbed my Gold Mario too, but no, I'm just Barry without Gold Mario currently right here.
Wah, wah, wah.
My Gold Mario hasn't arrived yet, unfortunately, but it will soon. But we have a special guest with us today. We have Nick.
Hey guys, Steve, you're no longer my friend. Your fault.
Oh, man. It's okay, because Bowser's got my back.
Oh, there you go. I got one of those, so I guess I'm not totally lucked out.
So, we are here, and we got a bunch of stuff to talk about. And one of the things that we will be discussing in a little while is PAX East. And so both Steve and Nick got the chance to go to that, so we'll have some impressions from them on that. But first things first, you may be wondering if you're watching the Google Hangout, which, by the way, we do our podcast a couple different ways. We have it through TalkShoe, and you can essentially listen to us live. Full details on that are on NintendoFuse.com. You can even call into the podcast as well, voice your opinion live on the show. And we do a video stream as well through Google Hangouts. So youtube.com/NintendoFuse is our channel, and you'll see the live video there. So if you're watching the video, you may be wondering, what shirt I'm wearing right now. What is this shirt? Look at that. Is that Samus? What? Look at that. So, Steve, do you want to tell us about these shirts?
Oh, well, since you mentioned it, there's a Rainbow Road shirt. What? Yeah. So yeah, our friends over at GamerPrint have put together some more gamer T-shirts, and as you guys know, if you've been watching and paying attention to the podcast for very long at all, you know that we love gaming T-shirts. In fact, we're probably donning a different one every time we have a podcast. And so our friends at GamerPrint have got a hold of us. We ran a contest with them a couple years ago over some holiday and Christmas cards that they gave away, and so now they have 10 new designs for T-shirts and sweatshirts and stuff like that, and they've reached out to us and they said, hey, we want to give away a new design, actually any pick of our designs, including our 10 new designs, for one of your readers and one of your listeners. And so that contest is going to start as soon as the podcast is over tonight. We're going to put the post up live as soon as we're done with this podcast. But basically the details are this. Really, really simple. We want you to comment on the post, and you're going to give your favorite gaming quote. That doesn't have to be a Nintendo quote, but just some quote that you really love from the world of gaming. And then you're going to make sure you include either or your Facebook username and or your Twitter username, because we need to be able to get a hold of you if you do win. Just in case you don't check the comments, we'll figure out how to get in touch with you and everything from that. So make sure you include your usernames from Facebook and Twitter in your comments. But also, you not only need to leave the comment, but you need to like and follow GamerPrint on Facebook and Twitter, and you need to like and follow NintendoFuse on Facebook and Twitter. So a little bit of liking and following, yeah, it's a little bit of self-promotion, but make sure that you guys are following us and getting the best Nintendo news and reviews from our social outlets. But we want you to make sure you include that quote that you really like in the comments, and one of you will win at midnight Eastern Time next Monday night. So that's when the contest is going to end, is next Monday night at midnight Eastern Time, and we'll pick a winner, and GamerPrint will send you one of those shirts in your choice of design. So thanks, GamerPrint, for doing that, and we look forward to seeing your submissions on that starting tonight as soon as the podcast is over.
There you go. Yeah, thank you, GamerPrint, and yeah, definitely want to go get your chance to win one of these great T-shirts. So go try that out. Go check it out. All right. So with that, well, let's kind of head into the next topic, and some quick shout-outs, too, for everybody that's there in the chat room. A Mac 11, Harsimmer Sohi, Harman Sohi. Alex is in there as well. His internet connection was not the best today, so he wasn't able to call into the show, but he's there in the chat room, so shout-out to Alex. And yeah, if you guys are in the chat, post some comments. We'll read them on the podcast as well, so go for it. So Steve and Nick recently went to PAX East, and we want to know all about it. Tell us all the details, all the fun games you guys got to play. Let's hear how that was. I know this year Nintendo actually had a decent presence, right? I think in the past, last year was it? They really didn't have much. How was that?
Yeah, it's kind of been like every other year. So they had a Nintendo booth. I think the year that you and Mickey and I went, right, Hassan?
Yeah.
There was a Nintendo booth then.
Yep.
Okay. So I think they had maybe like a couple years in a row, and then all of a sudden they kind of dropped out of PAX East. And then a couple years ago they were back, and then last year they were like nowhere to be seen, and then this year they had a booth again. So they had just one Wii U game that they were showing off, Splatoon, and then they had several different 3DS stations for that. So yeah, you wanna talk about Splatoon first, because that was kind of the game that we both ran to first, and rightly so. It was probably my favorite, I think, that I played. Not necessarily my biggest surprise, because there was a few games that I played that I was surprised that I liked so much. But Splatoon was definitely the one that I was most excited going into the show about. What did you think? Because Nick actually got to play it right before I did, because I was stuck in Boston traffic while he was waiting in line, and actually got in there. Was like one of the very, very first ones to play it. So, what did you think about it, Nick?
Yeah, well, I managed to show up pretty early. They give media members a little early access, so we ran right in, and I made my way straight to the Splatoon line. And I gotta say, I was not expecting how fast Splatoon is. I was not expecting how beautiful Splatoon is. I wasn't expecting to have as much fun as I did, especially in a group of strangers. I mean, there was 2 groups of 4 playing against each other locally, and we were running around, splatting each other, splatting enemies, covering paint, and I was high-fiving strangers the whole time. It is a blast. Splatoon is for real. I wasn't sure if it was. After 3 rounds of a couple minutes each, I was completely sold on Splatoon, and I'm looking forward to it. It's absolutely one of my most anticipated games at this point, so looking forward to it.
Yeah, I think I totally agree. And the things that I would add is I didn't realize like what necessarily I was getting myself into. When we first started, I had seen the game before, but I'd never ever played it. I know Alex got to play it last year at E3, but so I was just like, okay, I'll jump in and try. And initially I was like, you know what, I'm going to turn these motion controls off because I think that's silly, and a lot of people are against it. And what I found out was the few moments that I left them on, they're actually really precise. And I was thinking, when I actually get the game, I might keep the motion controls on. But I was really surprised by how precise they were. A lot more precise than just using the analog sticks, actually, for aiming. Another thing I found out was we were already pre-assigned characters and weapons and everything, and whatever weapon I had, I don't think I'm going to choose that in the final game because I was not a big fan of it. I don't know what it was, but I'm looking forward to the customization. I think to really hone in on what I really want to use and what's going to work best for my style of play and everything. But yeah, I think once I finally got the hang of what I was doing and realized that spraying the walls was not counting in my favor, then that was a big help, and it was really fun. Yeah, definitely really fun. So let's continue on, I guess, with Nintendo games themselves. Let's see, Xenoblade Chronicles 3D. I think both of us got a chance to play that one. Nick, I can't remember. Have you played Xenoblade before?
No, this was my first time ever playing it. But I'm too intimidated. Too big of a game,
Oh no,
Yeah.
you got to play it. No excuses. You got to play it.
I'll find the time.
Barry is going to hold us down and make sure that we all play Xenoblade.
Yeah.
So Yeah. For me, Xenoblade was definitely, it was a bit overwhelming actually as a demo. The demo itself was very extensive, I guess, and before I knew it, I was sitting there, I was totally engrossed in the story, and there's a lot of big cutscenes that were going on. They look really cool on the 3DS. And everything, and before I knew it, I was like, oh, right, gameplay. I should probably keep on skip through these cutscenes and actually get to gameplay. Once I did, though, I was a bit confused. Was the same thing for you, Nick? I wasn't really sure how to really attack, and maybe I missed something because I skipped through the cutscenes or something, but I was a bit confused on how you actually attack in the game, because it's a different style of RPG than I was used to from the turn-based stuff.
Yeah, I had the same issue. I don't play a ton of RPGs like that, but I thought I had a pretty good grasp. And being a newbie, I jumped right into it, and I was getting killed out there. I mean, you can't really get killed in the demo, but I couldn't make any progress. It was definitely a pretty steep learning curve for it right out of the gate. So.
Really?
That's true.
The attack system is just auto-attacking, and then you have your bar on the bottom, which is your different arts. And each art has a different cooldown. So you can move, at least with the Wii version, you can move along the art bar for your character and choose what you want to do. So if you do an art, like it starts a cooldown just for that art. So you could link arts, and occasionally, depending on the party dynamic you have and how well they like each other, occasionally you'll see something in the middle. I think in the 3DS version it's the B button, you hit it and you kind of do a linked attack. But other than that, it's just auto attacks and just do the arts when they're up.
I don't think I picked up that it was auto attack. I was like mashing the button the whole time going, attack, 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 get around him, come on, beat this guy. So that probably helps some too.
Now I know, because Xenoblade Chronicles 3D is one of those new 3DS games. Do you think, like, can you see that noticeable difference in terms of the graphical capabilities and everything for this game?
It's kind of hard to tell. The cutscenes were pretty impressive, just kind of the scope of what was going on in them, but I didn't see a massive graphical improvement. It was very similar to any other game on the system.
Yeah, I think in terms of gameplay, it didn't really look any different. The cutscenes were really, really, really nice for 3DS, but in terms of gameplay, it didn't really impress me too much. I mean, it looked great.
Yeah, it's probably, I guess, the scope of the game is probably what really had to be there for the new 3DS part. So that probably took up most of the space.
That's true, because that's a gigantic game. So.
Gotcha.
Right.
Any other big standouts for PAX East?
Let's see, what else? We both checked out the Puzzle and Dragons stuff, and both got our butts kicked on the harder levels. And the easy level was like, oh yeah, we're good. And then all of a sudden we tried the harder level and I'm like, man, this is difficult. So yeah, we talked about that, how Puzzle and Dragons seems pretty cool, but the Super Mario edition, we both agree that we would have liked it to see it as a standalone product, just like a downloadable product, and hopefully that maybe comes along later, because it'd be nice to just pay $10 just to get that instead of paying like a full $30-$40 to get this other game, which is probably great, but if I'm looking for just a quick fix on a Mario-styled Puzzle and Dragons, it'd be nice to just have it by itself instead of having to buy the entire package.
Well, since they did that with Kirby, they'll probably do that as well. But they're smart to bundle the retail with both games, I think, at least.
Yeah, I think that's the only way they're going to get a lot of American people to buy Puzzle and Dragon Z. It's a very hardcore RPG, it turns out. It's kind of like Pokemon, but the battles are with the 3 sort of puzzle gameplay. And that's cool for some people, but I don't think that's going to fly with a lot of people in the Western audience that just want to play the Mario version. But right now, I mean, we don't have any avenue to do that other than to buy the full package, you know? So if I could just buy that one, I would play it all the time, but I know I'm never going to touch the other game.
Yep. Let's see. There's a couple others. Nick got a chance to actually get some hands-on with the Shovel Knight DLC for the Plague of Shadows. Want to tell us a little bit about Plague of Shadows?
Sure. You know, actually hopping in line, it was funny. I was seeing people walk up to play the Shovel Knight demo, and you can choose if you want to play the Shovel Knight stage or the Plague Knight stage. And every time someone picks Shovel Knight, I'm like, no, what are you doing? You know, you got to try it out, guys. But it's very, very similar to Shovel Knight in presentation, and the enemies were the same. It was actually the same level as one of the earlier levels of the Shovel Knight campaign. But Plague Knight handles very, very differently. He's got a double jump, which doesn't sound like much, but when you're used to the single jump and the pogo jumping of Shovel Knight, it's a massive difference. And he's a lot floatier than Shovel Knight is, and can throw... His only attack is he throws these little explosive potions, I guess they are. And that's not as easy as just hacking and slashing with the shovel. And... if you do it, you can actually get an extended jump using your explosives. If you double jump and then just spam explosives in the air, you'll hover for a long time. So Plague Knight can cover pretty good distances in the air. But other than that, it's pretty similar to Shovel Knight, but it took me a while to get my hands around the new sort of traversal mechanics. But I'm very excited. I mean, Shovel Knight was my favorite games of the year, and the fact that it's free is just icing on the cake.
Yeah, I'm still amazed that they're giving away it for free. That's crazy. That's like a brand new game they're just including. We were both pretty impressed by Runbow and Toto Temple Deluxe.
Yes.
Two multiplayer party games that just are both kind of like they're entirely different types of games, but they're both that chaotic. 4-player, I mean, actually, Rumbo can be 8 players, or 9.
9 players,
right?
nine players. It's the first 9-player
Toto
ever.
Temple Deluxe, yeah, first 9 players ever. So you have to, the way they did it, you have to connect like a nunchuck or a classic controller to Wii Remote. So you actually, you know, if you get it out of control and you're like, you might rip it out of your other player's hand, I guess. But both of them are very chaotic and just a blast to play, and I'm looking forward to having both of them and just playing in parties. Yeah, you can check out more about both of those games, but those were kind of two that I think really stood out to us, and we had a lot of fun playing them. I think the other one was Adventures of Pip. Both of us kind of went into Adventures of Pip not really knowing much, and then stepping away going, wow, that was really good. Now I'm excited about it. So definitely Adventures of Pip is another one to kind of keep your eye on as well. Anything else that you want to mention, Nick, before we move on to the next thing?
You know, that's pretty much all we got saw from Nintendo. I mean, we played Chariot for a little bit, which is already out, but I had played it a little bit, but never co-op, and it was pretty difficult to work together, but I think we figured it out.
That's true. For a while we were like, okay, how do we do this? But it was fun. It was kind of trial by fire, teamwork coming together. I was going to say as well, I know I've been promising on Twitter for a while to our followers on there that our interview with Neon the Ninja was going to be up like right after we were done with PAX East, and things just got busy for me, and I'm still editing that. So we have a full interview with the developers of Neon the Ninja, and that was another game that it's still in very, very early development for Wii U. I'm pretty excited about it, I think, but yeah. Check out, keep waiting, it's going to be done really, really soon, our full interview with the developers.
Awesome. I do have some comments from the chat. So a Mac 11 is saying Puzzles and Dragons is releasing for $30, so I guess that's kind of one incentive if it's you kind of have 2 games in a way for a lower price. Alex is actually saying, do we have a release date for the Plague Knight DLC? Anyone know?
I think it's Q2 2015. I don't think there's an exact date, but it's Q2, so not too long.
Gotcha. Roth is in the TalkShoe chat, so shout out to Roth. He says free DLC is how it should always be. I agree. That would be awesome. He's asking.
And it doesn't stop just with Plague Night. They're
Yeah.
they're going to be doing other ones in addition to Plague Night, which is awesome.
Can't wait.
Yeah, I always love when developers do that. Like the other example that comes to mind, at least from Nintendo directly, is like Mario Kart with all the new tracks and everything they're just releasing. I mean, although wait, Mario Kart you had to purchase, didn't you?
Yeah.
He did.
Yes, that's right. But still, I guess it's nice to have extra.
They did it.
I totally.
Hyrule Warriors had a bunch of free stuff.
Yeah.
In addition to
Hyrule
the
Warriors.
4 packs for Hyrule Warriors, they raised the level caps and added new items and new weapons and stuff for free. Three new characters were added for free as well.
That's true. Yep. So free DLC is always nice for sure. Roth is asking, did you guys get to try Axiom Verge at PAX East?
I saw Axiom Verge at PAX East, but I didn't get a chance to play it. I've played the demo on PS4 at GameStop, and it's certainly a Metroid game. It's definitely a lot of fun, though. I mean, if that's your style of game, I mean, it's side-scrolling, exploration, hidden pathways, all sorts of things like that. But as far as I know, that's still a PlayStation exclusive. But if you have a PlayStation, that's definitely a game to go for.
Gotcha. Cool. So that's it for PAX East. So thank you guys for sharing your impressions of PAX East. If you ever get the chance to go to PAX or a similar convention, definitely check it out because it's always a lot of fun to go and try out a whole bunch of games and everything. So definitely a fun experience. All right, so on to we went from some good fun stuff to now some bad news. Unfortunately, The Legend of Zelda Wii U has been delayed. So they released a little video, and Eiji Onuma was basically saying that there's a whole bunch of new ideas that they keep having, and they want to put all that time and energy into it. So they are going to push it off into 2016, which, I kind of expected, though. I mean, typically with the way Zelda games go, they tend to get delayed and stuff, and so it's sort of, I kind of expected it. But what I didn't expect is the follow-up piece of news is that they're not even going to have the game at E3, which surprises me. Although, I don't know what that means. Are they talking about no gameplay at E3, or just, not even at all in trailer form or anything, which that would be really surprising. So that almost makes me a little worried too. Did you guys get that sense as well?
Yeah, the way it seemed is, number one, I mean, not to give any false hopes because chances are it's going to be 2016, but technically he said that they're not going to hold fast to that 2015 date anymore. So it could still appear in 2015, but the chances are incredibly slim. But in terms of E3, yeah, I think the way it sounded, they're not going to be there at all in terms of Zelda having anything playable, viewable, or anything. They're just going to leave Zelda completely out of the show altogether.
See, I when that news hit, I watched that video, and I saw all these posts on Twitter and Facebook. Oh my God, Zelda's delayed. Oh my God, crying. Nintendo, what are you doing? Nintendo's doomed. Wii U's doomed. And all I can, maybe it's my age, but all I could do was smile that entire video, because what I saw was a developer who loves the franchise he's working on, so excited to have new, fresh ideas to put into a series that's over 25 years old. He was like a kid at a candy store. Just, oh my God, I got all these new ideas and all these new possibilities. And the number one thing people complain about so many publishers, EA, Capcom, Namco, they push games out. They had to hit a deadline. They push games out. They're buggy. Look at last year. How many buggy games, AAA titles, were released? People complained. Drive Club didn't work. Halo didn't work. This is not only a developer who loves what he's working on, but is willing to take the time to make it the best possible. So while, yes, I would love to play Zelda this Christmas. No bigger Zelda fan than myself. I'm happy for two reasons. One, because I know when I do get to play it, that it's going to be the best damn Zelda since Link's Awakening, as far as I'm concerned. And number two is Xenoblade Chronicles X is going to take the Game of the Year. I don't have to make that tough decision which one I'm going to have to worry about. But but seriously, they're going to have something at E3. If it's not Zelda, they already stated they have surprises. They stated there's unannounced games for 2015. There's unannounced games for 2016. They're going to fill that slot with something. They're going to blow us away. They might have a trailer, but if they don't, it's because what we saw is not going to be the game anymore. Like, there's so many changes they must be doing that they don't want to show it off early. Because what happens when games are shown off early? People just sit and nitpick about pre-alpha footage. Oh, those textures suck. This game's going to suck. There's no point to it.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've definitely got mixed emotions about this right now. I'm with you. They only pushed it for good reasons. In fact, they said they're exploring new possibilities that they just found. So it's only going to get better from here. But this was my game that I was looking forward to this year. This was number one for me. And honestly, this was a big chance for Nintendo to stand out this year because Uncharted just got pushed for PlayStation. And, I mean, who knows what's going to happen with Xbox games. Halo could move at any second. That wouldn't surprise me. But Zelda is Zelda. Zelda's going to move Wii U. Zelda is going to steal headlines. And if it doesn't come out this year, which now it looks like it's not going to, that's a big blow for Nintendo. And they're going to have to fill that hole with something, just like you said, Barry. And I don't know what that's going to be because I don't think Xenoblade Chronicles X is a lock for this year. As much as they say it is, I'm not convinced it is going to come out this year. We haven't seen anything of an American or English or anything version of the game, and that's not even really, that's sort of for a niche audience. As much as you might love it, and I'm sure it will be great and people will love it, I don't think that's a big deal for the mass audience, but Zelda is a big deal, and the fact that we're not getting it, that's really a big blow personally to me because I was excited, but I think it's a big blow to Nintendo and their strategy for this year. I just hope they can do something to remain relevant until next year and keep people talking about them. I mean, Nintendo's always relevant, but it's going to hurt to see other games come out and no Zelda.
Well, Nintendo knows this. They definitely know this, and they've got other games. I mean, how many games, even last year, came out of nowhere? Kirby and the Rainbow Curse came out of nowhere. Mario Maker came out of nowhere. Splatoon came out of nowhere. And those were all really far along games. I mean, Kirby's already out. Splatoon's coming out just in a short few months. So who knows what they have up their sleeve? I mean, they could pop out, here's a new F-Zero, here's a new Fire Emblem for the Wii U, here's Star Fox, fully shown off, here's a new Metroid. We don't know what Retro's been working on. Maybe that's going to fill the slot. There's so many unknowns at this point that Nintendo may say, hey, we feel comfortable pushing Zelda aside to make it the best ever, but don't worry, we have an ace up our sleeve, and here it is. And we're not going to expect it.
I hope you're right.
Yeah, and I think, I hope we are too, because they need it. If they're going to continue to push consoles throughout the holiday season as well, they're going to need some big games that are going to push people to say, okay, yeah, I do want that Wii U. Even though I'm going to have to wait a little longer on Zelda, I do want that Wii U. And I'm with Barry. I think it was cool. It's always cool to hear directly from the developer and just hearing their passion behind the game and what they're making, and that's what you heard, and it's exciting to know what it's the unknown, like where is Zelda going to go, and they don't even really know, I don't think, just yet, and I think it's also exciting for me to hear that they're having all these possibilities on the Wii U, because a lot of people are downplaying the Wii U, its power, its capacity, and all this stuff to be able to create like an amazing game, but all of a sudden you have the producer of Zelda saying, oh no, we can do some amazing things in Zelda on Wii U. That gets me excited for this console again, and yeah, it's disappointing that we're going to have to wait a little longer, but it's like we talked about before. When a game gets pushed back in order to make it better, it's going to be okay. As far as the entire company goes, yeah, I do hope that they have some things to fill those gaps that Zelda is going to leave. But you know, I think they've probably done their homework and they realize that, and so hopefully they're probably gonna, I'm assuming, adjust some of their release schedules to kind of fill that gap. Is what we're probably gonna see some other games delayed, might see some others pulled up a little bit more to kind of fill in that gap, and a couple surprises probably too.
Right.
To play devil's advocate to myself, they could pull Twilight Princess again. Same.
Oh, you're talking about like on like the next console too or something?
Yeah.
Or,
like what they did with Twilight Princess.
People are saying that. I don't know that I think that'll happen though, because I feel like I think that the next system is a long while away. You know, I think because there were a whole bunch of comments after the whole, we'll talk about it later, the Nintendo NX and everything. Everybody's like, oh, that's it. New Zelda's going to Nintendo NX. I'm like, whoa, guys, relax. You know, everybody kind of jumps the gun there. Wii U is still here to stay. There's plenty of Wii U games on the way. We still have Star Fox. I mean, that's supposedly this year as well, so that could be something that comes out in the fall or holiday time or something. So we still have plenty more to come for Wii U this year. So we'll see.
Yoshi too.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. There's a whole bunch. So. It does remind me. I mean, yeah, you know, delays do suck a little bit, but at the same time, you know, we got to remember Shigeru Miyamoto and his famous quote, right? A delayed game is eventually good. A bad game is bad forever. So, definitely some wise words, and I'm sure it will be worth the wait. So we shall see. And with that. You know, I guess the one thing that might keep us busy before the new Zelda comes out, maybe some mobile games, perhaps. Who knows? Who knows what will happen with that?
You mean like mobile like this?
No,
right?
no.
Like
I mean,
my 3DS is
mobile,
right?
like, hello, hey, how are you? Oh, hold on, I want to play some games on my mobile smartphone. What? Yeah.
That's what this is for.
Nintendo's coming out with a smartphone.
Well,
yeah, you know, they're taking Nokia's thing. They're going to do the side talking all over again.
Nintendo's going third party. No, I'm just kidding. So yeah, stuff happened. There were some announcements that were made, which were somewhat surprising. Although, if you really go back and kind of listen to what some of the stuff that Iwata said before, almost not as surprising as you would think. So essentially. There's a company called DeNA, and spelled like D-E-N-A, but it's pronounced DeNA, and they have partnered with Nintendo. So DeNA does a lot of mobile games and other applications and everything, and so Nintendo has partnered with them to release Nintendo games on mobile devices, like on smartphones. Now, however, we're not talking Nintendo games that you can get on your 3DS or Wii U or anything like that. We're talking completely original games designed for mobile devices. So you're not going to be able to play your 3DS games or Wii U games on mobile devices or anything like that. Not even retro classics. We're talking completely original designed for mobile games. And with the intention of, according to Nintendo, they want people to get familiarized with Nintendo IP and essentially then go and buy dedicated game consoles to play more games. So it's almost in a way a bit of an advertisement for their actual systems. And to go hand in hand with that, they announced, obviously they're working on a new system, and it's codenamed Nintendo NX, and that's all they said. But essentially their intention was to say, we're not stopping making our own game systems. Another one is coming, but this is just another avenue to kind of use Nintendo IP. And so, a lot of people freaked out. Although if you do go back and listen to some comments Iwata made at an investor briefing, he did kind of say that they were going to be exploring those opportunities on mobile devices and ways to advertise. And he did say that, if the opportunity came, they might do some games. So it's not completely surprising, but it still is a bit surprising to say that it's actually finally happening. So what did you guys think of this?
Right. Yeah, I think you hit. I'm glad you mentioned that, because I think a lot of news sources and other people have totally forgot that he even alluded to that before. And they're like, "Oh my gosh, this kind of came out of completely left field." And I was like, "No, it didn't." He's been talking about this for a while. Maybe not games per se, but they've been talking about getting the mobile market for a while, and especially but them talking about expanding the Nintendo network more. And I think, well, my guess is this is probably a deal that happened because of their effort to really to get another company that can really help them in the area of their online presence and getting an account system that really definitely works and everything, and that's what DeNA actually can do. They've done that in the Japanese market mobile games. They have this company or thing called Mobage. I'm probably mispronouncing that, but it's kind of like that. It's kind of like Game Center for iOS and some other things. Like it's that underlying system that works in all these different games together. And they're very, very familiar with that. And I think that was probably a smart move, because that's something that every fan of Nintendo and non-fans alike have been criticizing them about, is their online presence is awful. And they just have no online system to really help online games and all that stuff. And so to partner with someone that seems like they really know how to do it is probably a smart move. My guess is they probably, in their talks, they said, "Hey, what do you think about maybe bringing a Mario over to a game on smartphones as well, or Zelda or whatever?" And that's probably something they worked out together. But my guess is they probably went into this deal seeking DeNA's help on the online structure first, and then this probably came out of that. But I'm very glad that they're not just porting games. I'm extremely glad, because console games do not port over well to smart devices, and those on-screen controls are awful. They need to make something that's designed for a smartphone, that's designed for a multi-touch device, and that's it. And I like how it's kind of like getting a taste of what those games could be like, and they're like, "Oh, if you like this, come buy our console and buy a real game." So I'm glad that this is the way they're doing it. I think it's done well. It's going to be done well.
Yeah, Steve, I agree with you. I think that I think the partnership came about with working on the online infrastructure first, and this was an after effect. And one key thing I did look for is it seems like DeNA is actually going to be the ones designing the games and developing the games with Nintendo characters, with Nintendo's approval, meaning it won't take any of Nintendo's development costs away from their core games, which I'm very happy to see, because it'd be like, "Oh, Zelda's delayed because we got to go make Mario Pop 55 on mobile right now instead." So I'm glad to see that. I don't expect any trash games, just throwaway games. I expect Nintendo to keep their quality control for their first-party titles to be there. And I was talking with a friend of mine about this, and I'm not a mobile gamer. I despise mobile games. But when our generation was growing up, there was a saying that more kids today know Mario over Mickey Mouse. And obviously, before our generation, Mickey Mouse was the #1 most recognizable. Now, in 2015, I hear more kids recognize stuff from Minecraft than Mario. And to hear that just brings a tear to my eye. Like, what the hell? This is freaking Mario. So I agree. You go out to eat and you look at any family, you see the parents just give them an iPad or just give them an iPhone and say, "Play, keep yourself busy." So that's what they have, because they're looking at, well, I already have a phone. I could pay 99 cents for a crap game or a free download with freemium stuff and give it to the kid to entertain themselves instead of spending $200 on the 3DS and another $30 on a game. And that's the way they're looking at it. So if Nintendo can get in there, all of a sudden these kids are sitting at the table and now they're playing Mario games and go, "Oh, that's pretty cool. I like these characters. What else are they in?" And see this entire library of games that they now want to play. I think it could work in Nintendo's favor. They just have to be careful not to cheapen their brand. So I guess we'll see how that plays out.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, you don't want to. What happened with what was the CDI games the last time that Nintendo licensed out their characters? We definitely want to see that again.
Well, come on. We might get so hungry we can eat a Dr. Rock.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to say this now, and I think you guys are going to agree with me. There is no company in the world that is better designed to take over mobile gaming than Nintendo. For two reasons. Number one, Nintendo has always been the masters of getting the most that they can out of the hardware that they're making games for. So these touchscreen controls with D-pads and all these things that are awful to use, Nintendo's not going to mess with those. They're going to make something that feels good to play because that's what they've always done. And also, a big problem with mobile gaming is one-and-done developers. They'll make one hit and then they're out. Nintendo is going to have sustained success because not only will their games likely be pretty good, some of them could be really good, they have so many different IPs, characters, games, all these things that they can work with that they can just have success after success after success. They can keep this going, which in the same way that a lot of mobile game developers cannot do. So this is an absolute must-do for Nintendo. This is a win for them, and I think this is we're gonna see some really big things come out of this on the mobile space. You know, go figure. Nintendo doing big things on the mobile space. It's in the near future.
It's true. It's gonna be really, just really weird though to have Mario on this. That's all I'm gonna say. And because of that, I can stream it to my TV and be playing Mario on my TV on a completely non-Nintendo system. That's gonna be weird. That's all I'm saying.
Although, I mean, you got to think whatever Mario you have in your phone is probably going to be completely different, than your traditional Mario too, in a way. But yeah, I mean, I think everybody made a lot of great points. I think Nintendo will have to be a little careful though. Like Barry mentioned, you don't want to cheapen the brand too. You want to make sure you have some good quality stuff and something that really does get players to want to get to the dedicated game consoles. Because there is always that small fear, in the back of I think most people's minds that this will become so big for Nintendo that eventually down the road, there's the naysayers that Nintendo will eventually transition over. I don't think that will happen, but at the same time, the focus has got to be their own consoles, but it's exciting though to see what they do, and perhaps they could even integrate the two in a way where you have apps or certain devices on mobile phones, and then I don't know, use a special. It connects somehow with your console game, or I don't even know. I mean, Nintendo is going to be the one to come up with all sorts of crazy possibilities, right? So they always have all sorts of interesting control methods, and who knows what will happen. I almost envision like something. If anybody has like the Xbox, like the Smart Glass app, I think it is. So it's like when you turn on your Xbox, you can control stuff from there and do different things. So I almost envision something. They could have an app that does that too. I mean, there's so many possibilities. And it'll definitely be interesting to see where they go with it.
That's true. And I think you brought up a good point because DeNA is going to help them develop this online structure and this system. And so we don't really know what that's going to look like. I mean, obviously, it seems like it's going to be a replacement for Club Nintendo, most likely. But my guess is it's going to definitely incorporate the Nintendo network IDs and stuff because, I mean, they've been talking about how they're going to expand that and use them on different devices over time. And so what's that network, that infrastructure going to look like over time? Is it going to be able to be something that your device is going to be more connected over time, including your smart devices, and be able to tie those little games, those mobile games, into the big ones, like you're saying, or the apps that are all going to kind of work together and stuff. It's very. I think that's the biggest excitement for me. I think is what does this infrastructure going to look like that they're going to be creating with DeNA.
They're going to create the new Nintendo toilet announced at E3 that will allow you to play your Wii U games while you take a shit.
Wait, you can never do that.
No, if it's too far away from your Wii U, it has a screen built in.
I want to give a shout out to Harman and Harsimmer in the chat. They had to head out, but thank you guys for joining in. I also wanted to mention Alex brought up in the chat that Nintendo, Iwata's quote is, development of smart device games will be mainly done by Nintendo, but it is significant that we're forming a joint development structure with DeNA. So Nintendo will be having a hand in a lot of the developing of the games. Now, of course, it's not going to be like they're the same teams probably that are making all their other big name titles, but Nintendo is going to be having a direct hand in developing a lot of these games, so it should have that seal of quality from Nintendo as well. And then also I wanted to mention what Steve was talking about with the account system stuff. I think it all kind of, everything is really coming to fruition. A lot of times in the investor briefings, Iwata talks like very general, and you always wonder what he's talking about. And then like months later, it's like, oh, that's what it was. And it reminds me of when they're talking about the Nintendo Network ID almost becoming a platform of its own, and being able to be used across different devices. And we have Club Nintendo just ended, and they've talked about using Nintendo Network ID for some sort of reward stuff as well. I mean, it all is like coming together in a way. And I'm looking at the DeNA press release for this whole thing, and they said that this membership service that they're working on will be accessible from smart devices, PC, and Nintendo systems, and it's targeted to launch in the fall. So it's something that they are actively working on, and perhaps we'll hear about soon as well. So definitely will be very interesting to see what they do with it.
It's true. I'm also interested in like the portions that they bought of each other's company. Was interesting. So Nintendo got about like 10% of DeNA, but DeNA got I think like 1 point something percent of Nintendo. So I wonder, down the line how this is going to work out, and if there's going to be some sort of I don't know, merger, takeover, buyout. I don't know. If this goes well, then Nintendo might just kind of like, okay, we're just going to absorb DeNA and really just take all their talent and really blow this out of the water if it goes well. So it's kind of like a tiptoeing into this and see how it goes for a while. And if it goes well, who knows what could happen in the long run.
Yeah, they can definitely do that. I know they bought into each other to show how committed they were to the deal, so one wouldn't try to screw over the other because they were both invested in each other, which is actually very smart. But I could definitely see them doing that, or I can see them getting 49% of their share and then selling it to Microsoft.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like Nintendo's learned some things since they had their deal with Sony back in the day.
Right. Yeah, it'll be very interesting to see. Actually, I wonder if Sony and Microsoft will start to take the mobile space, even more seriously. I know Sony has done the whole, what is it, PlayStation Now, I think it is, or something. They had something, I forget what it is, and they've tried to put their mobile or the games on mobile devices, and so I wonder if like some of these other companies are going to try and take that area more seriously or not. I don't know.
Sure. Well, you do got. I mean, both Sony and Microsoft are both phone developers, and they're more of a general electronics, a consumer electronics companies, and so they don't just make video games. They make phones themselves, and so they've been, obviously you got the Windows games, and then the Android games from Sony, but they're making those games as well, and now. I mean, Windows and Microsoft. I mean, they're integrating everything fully into everything with their mobile games, Windows games, and our PC games and Xbox One games are all basically going to be the same eventually. I think in a way, and so I wonder, Sony's probably going to try to play that as well. They got their whole cloud stuff going on, which is with the PlayStation Now, because that enables to do the whole cloud stuff. I mean, they're definitely thinking entire infrastructure of any type of game that you can play. We want to own that space, and I think this is probably Nintendo going, hey, we want a piece of that too.
Yeah, Microsoft even has on their like Windows Live phones, they have games that actually give you Xbox Live achievements if you signed in, and there's even one on the iOS that also will give you Xbox Live achievements, which is kind of interesting how they have integrated that into their mobile games. Not that Nintendo's ever done an achievement type system outside of like Smash Brothers or anything Sakurai's worked on, but it would be interesting to see if they do try to incorporate whatever mobile games they do come out with to your Nintendo Network ID and somehow tie it in, like, oh, if you pick up this mobile game, and you score X amount of points, we'll give you a discount on the 3DS eShop version or something like that.
Yeah. That would be an interesting way to like advertise too, because that would definitely kind of push people to try and get some of their consoles. But also, I mean, Nintendo, they've kind of expanded. Well, they've done other things besides video games before too, but they're continuing with that with the Amiibo. And what if now with phones that have NFC support, Amiibos on your Nintendo mobile devices? I mean, I guess there's so many more ways to promote some of these other Nintendo products now too, and because Amiibos in a way are their own line of products, and so it'll definitely be very interesting to see where they go from here. I'm actually kind of excited. I never thought I would say that I'd be excited about Nintendo mobile games, but it is kind of exciting though to see what what happens with those. Barry's like, none of this. I don't want to hear that.
But yeah, I mean, they could even probably incorporate this whole quality of life stuff into that as well. I mean, I'm sure it's probably playing into this system as well, and so there's no telling.
Non-wearable. I mean, your phone, you don't exactly wear it. What if your phone is the quality of life device somehow? I don't even know. That doesn't even make sense, but who knows?
Here's a question though, Hassan. I know you've been jumping into the Apple thing. If Nintendo actually came out with a phone, would you jump from Apple over to Nintendo?
I actually did think about that a while ago. I wondered about that. I feel like I would probably buy a Nintendo phone but not use it as a phone. Just have it like as a second device just to play those games or something. Because I couldn't live without it, but I mean, I couldn't. My phone has to be the iPhone at this point, Yeah, who knows? We'll
I think I mean, they're kind of jumping in late, but maybe that's what Apple, for instance, has this infrastructure, this buy-in. You've got all your apps and your music and all this different stuff, and you've got all the different devices. They all work together and stuff. And I'm wondering, if Nintendo's wanting to try to kind of create some sort of infrastructure like that in the gaming space, so where you buy into this whole system, and they kind of get you for life, if you will. It's kind of like Nintendo, kind of like Apple has.
Right. Yeah, that'll be very interesting to see. I think definitely. I think E3 this year is going to be very, very interesting. We'll have to see what happens. I don't know how much of the mobile stuff they're going to announce there or hold off for something else, but there's a lot of interesting stuff on the way, and I'm kind of excited about it. So we'll see what happens. Anything else you guys want to add to the whole? Oh, actually, I do want to briefly also mention we really don't know anything about it, but Nintendo NX, right? I mean, is it a home console? Is it a handheld? Is it both? What would you like to see in the next Nintendo system?
There's been a lot of talk, and I don't know where it really started, with it being a hybrid console. And in my mind, I love the idea. I love the concept of it being a hybrid console, mainly because I've been thinking recently, like, just with the way computers and tablets and mobile phones have been advancing, I was thinking, it'd be awesome just to be able to carry a really powerful phone around in my pocket, and I sit down at my desk and I plug it into a dock, and I'm able to use, it as my main computer, and just be able to pull it out and go when I need to go away, and that sort of thing. And so having that sort of similar experience with a gaming console, being able to take it on the go. We've always talked about if there's a game on a home console and a game on the a handheld console, it'd be cool if they fully sync together. So if you're playing your Zelda game at home and all of a sudden you got to take a trip, you can take that exact same game with you. You just unplug it and take it with you, and go on your trip and play it on the plane or whatever, and just pick up where you left off. That is very exciting for me when we talk about that sort of hybrid thing. However, I don't know if the technology exists where we can keep the price at a decent spot in order to make that happen for a Nintendo priced console. I'm afraid that something like that is going to be incredibly high priced, and I don't know if it would sell very well because of that. But we are seeing, Xbox and PlayStation both were priced higher, and they've sold pretty well. So maybe price is not as important as it once was. But I think going on what people have talked about the hybrid console, that excites me, but I don't know how they would work for the price. Other than that, I have no idea. I don't know what Nintendo could pull out. People are talking VR and holograms and all this other stuff. So who knows? Who knows?
Yeah, I'm with you with the hybrid. I've thought about it And the thing I keep thinking about is, people complain about the Wii U having no games, and looking at the 3DS, and it does. And if they combined those libraries into one console, that would be insane. Every year would just be jam-packed with tons and tons of games that you wouldn't even need third parties. But again, I'm trying to think how they would do it. And the only way I could sort of see it is if they sold them separately. One be a console, just standard console for the TV, and the other one be a handheld, but they talk to each other, and you could buy them both, and you can use them both, but you won't necessarily need to have them both to keep costs down. Kind of like how people said, oh, I wish the Wii U was packaged with the Pro Controller. Why do I need to get the gamepad? And the cost went up. And they did the same thing with the Xbox One. Why does it have to be packaged with the Kinect? We don't want the Kinect. And they sold it, without the Kinect now. And, kind of like what the Vita does to the PS4, except they can't sell the Vita for shit. This would all be Nintendo. And the only way I'm thinking is, what would you do with games? Would you use cards like the 3DS is? Would you use discs like the Wii U? And if you use discs, how would that translate?
What if it was purely downloadable, Barry?
Then Nintendo would lose my business. That's for sure.
At least the
handheld part. But no, it couldn't be, because you would need a hard drive, and they wouldn't do that. They want to make sure people. Retail space is so important. That's one of the big things with Amiibo, is that there's retail space. Now there's physical figures. People are holding it. The reason all these figures are selling Skylanders, Disney Infinity, and Amiibo is because people like physical goods. They like to have that toy. They like to hold it. And why, when they said, oh, we'll do cards later on, people are like, no, I want to buy the Amiibo. I want that figure. So retail space is too important for them to just go all digital. It would never happen, at least not anytime soon. Not as long as people are still shopping at Walmarts and Targets and Toys R Us's and stuff. It won't happen. But that's what I'd like to see. They also made that cryptic sentence about like it being something like revolutionary, and the last time they did that, we got the Wii, aka the Revolution. So who knows really what Nintendo will come up with next, because they have so many different ways they've already innovated that no one thought about. And obviously the next logical step is VR, which Oculus is doing, Sony's doing, or holograms like Microsoft is doing. That seems like the most logical step, other than putting a empty cardboard box with a hole in it and say, this is called outside, put it up to your face and walk out there. There's nothing else really I can think of where they can go, so I'm really excited to see.
Well, I think that Nintendo going in the route of VR is completely opposite to everything that Nintendo has always stood for. Nintendo is really one of the last major holders of the belief that local multiplayer is the best multiplayer. And strapping goggles on your head and isolating you from all your friends just seems completely opposite to everything that they've always stood for.
Need I remind you about the Virtual Boy? That's not out of their realm.
Need I remind
you? That did.
Need I remind you how the Virtual Boy did, sales-wise and critically. 2017, we will all be the proud owners of the Nintendo NX, which is a brand new, first ever smartphone from Nintendo. So hey.
God. You're out of here, Nick. Get out now. Go to the door. Go.
Blasphemy.
Hey, I'll be happy.
I totally agree with the 2017 mark, I think, though. I mean, right. I think some people have been talking about 2016 launch, and I don't think that's going to happen at all. I think they're gonna announce it, and it'd probably be out of holiday 2017.
If Zelda
really shoot for.
I mean, if Zelda is a 2016 Wii U game now, there cannot be an NX in 2016. And if it is an NX title, I'm quitting Nintendo for life. I can't take it again. I cannot go through another Twilight Princess.
Oh, you lasted a month. It was 1 month you had to wait. That wasn't so bad.
It was 1 month of agony.
That's why you should have waited like the rest of us and got a Wii at launch day to play Twilight Princess first thing.
No, I mean, I think I agree with Nick. Not on the smartphone thing. I don't know if that'll happen, but
it was mostly a joke. Mostly.
Well, you never know with Nintendo nowadays. They surprise us sometimes. But no, I mean I think 2017.
Well, they've actually.
Yeah. I think 2017 is probably a good date that we'll see it. My prediction, I think, is going to be that it's going to be a separate console and handheld, but it's going to be, I think they're going to be released either at the same time or close to each other, and I think they're going to have like the same operating system. I almost imagine it as like an iPhone and iPad in a way. If we're kind of doing all these mobile comparisons, because the iPhone has its own specific games, the iPad has its own specific games, but it's the same operating system, and there's a lot of games that are on both devices together. So I kind of envision something like that, where, because we know that their development teams are working together now. They kind of integrated the hardware or the console and handheld teams together. So I think they're going to be developing things a lot more closely. You know, I envision more scenarios like Smash Brothers where they have 3DS and Wii U games, and there's some differences, but they can connect with each other, and there's a lot of similarities and stuff like that. And that way you can kind of, get your pick of home console, handheld, or both, and then I'm sure there's going to be advantages to having both and everything as well, and their own unique experiences to each. But I think that's kind of, they're definitely in that direction of integrating things more.
Right.
As long as they don't make you buy
the
game twice.
What's that?
I said as long as they don't make you buy the same game twice, which they're known for doing.
True. Yeah. And it makes sense. I mean, really, if we're looking at and talking just general consumer electronics, I mean, smartphones and computers are more tightly integrated than they ever have been before, both from Apple and definitely from Windows, and they're just tying in together. And I think Nintendo is probably thinking, okay, how can we do this on the gaming front as well? Really tie these two consoles together, and I think this new 3DS is probably, in a way, it was about time for something new on the handheld market for them. But this is kind of probably one of those things, we can buy some time releasing a slightly improved 3DS for our handheld console, and the Wii U definitely has a few more years into it. And I think 2017 we could see something. If it's not the same thing, I think, like you're saying, Hassan, it could definitely be a side-by-side launch for both consoles at the same time.
Right, and with how they're trying to integrate the Nintendo Network ID stuff too, I think what Barry mentioned about not having to buy games twice. I mean, if Nintendo Network ID is becoming so integral to everything, I mean, you buy it once on your ID and then it's there on both systems.
Yeah, 2017 seems like the most logical date. It also will put the Wii U at a 5-year life cycle, which is exactly what most other Nintendo consoles have had. I saw some people freak out like, oh, the NX is announced, the Wii U's dead and stuff. They announced the Wii U 2 years before it came out. They announced the Wii 2 years before it came out. So it's nothing out of the ordinary. And I could even see 2018 as a possibility, early 2018. And the reason I say that is they announced it this year, but they stated you're not going to hear anything else till next year. And for all we know, it's still in very early concept stages, and they even stated the only reason they did that is to convince people, hey, we're not leaving the dedicated console gaming business. We're still in it, and here's our proof of that dedication. So it was announced very, very early, which Nintendo very rarely does. So, I think even 2018 is a possibility. It all depends on how everything's going. I mean, if they put out 2016 Zelda U in March, and all of a sudden Wii U sales take off, they'd be stupid to say 2017 NX, screw you. They'd pull a Sega at that point. Would have to ride the Wii U a little bit longer if it's selling.
They'd at least hold off the release date, not mention anything about it.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think. Oh shoot! I forgot what I was going to say. It's gone.
It's important enough.
Roth in the chat, his little prediction here is he thinks it'll be a hybrid, but he says they're going to go a little further than that. They could have a handheld that works as a controller that auto connects and syncs to your system once you get home. The system would have a disc slot. There would be what is called a display adapter where you can tap your handheld or device to beam it to your TV. built-in NFC, no lag. The technology already exists and is affordable. So that's another possibility. So there's lots of things. I mean, but then of course it's Nintendo, so they're gonna come out and release something that nobody even thought about. I mean, who thought about glasses-free 3D, or thought about, you know, a screen on your gamepad and everything? I mean, or the motion controls on the Wii. I mean, all these things nobody thought about, and then here they are now. So
analog stick, D-pad, rumble, shoulder buttons.
Yeah. I remember what I was going to say. I was going to just mention just about the release date. I think it's essentially, I agree that I think what I basically just said this just to, you know, because he's basically just stating the obvious. We all knew that they were working on their next console. You know, are we sure if Sony or Microsoft are going to come out with another console after the Xbox One or PlayStation 4? Maybe not. Who knows? But we're pretty sure that obviously we all know that the Wii U can improve. And so it was basically him just stating the obvious to reassure us that they're not giving up on console gaming.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, we'll have to wait and see exactly what this whole Nintendo NX business is all about. But as you can tell, there's a lot of interesting ideas out there and a lot of possibilities. So we'll see what happens. So that's that for this episode. So thank you to everybody that listened and watched in. We really do appreciate that. We will have another episode in April sometime, and possibly, you know, if there's another Nintendo Direct soon, which usually what always happens if you haven't listened to the podcast recently, I mean, we always do an episode, and then like that week there happens to be a Nintendo Direct or something, because Nintendo's always like, oh, as if you didn't have enough stuff to talk about, here's more things. So who knows? Maybe we'll get a Nintendo Direct soon, or not. Who knows?
4chan said April 1st, right?
I mean, April 1st is like the most reliable date ever, so I mean, it's definitely a strong possibility. Yeah, you never know what other announcements Nintendo will make on April 1st, so stay tuned to NintendoFuse.com, and you'll see the latest announcements. So
probably have some scoops.
Yeah, definitely. So
I
with
wouldn't
that being
be
said,
surprised to hear Nintendo buying Sony and Microsoft at this new Nintendo Direct on April 1st. I really wouldn't. You know, they got the money.
Yeah, that is absolutely true. You never know what's going to happen. Just stay tuned. That's all I can say. NintendoFuse.com. Bookmark it. Be ready. But yeah, thank you to Nick for joining us today as well. We appreciate you being on here.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, no problem. And we will see you guys next time. So stay tuned to NintendoFuse.com to find out when the next episode is, and we will see you later.
Have a good night.
See ya.